10 minutes is a real nuts and bolts kind of, these are things that I've actually used in class. And it's most of what's going to be up on the screen is little snippets I've taken from syllabi and assignment handouts. So just sort of by way of background, in the faculty development program, this is a piece of what we're supposed to do. Most of you already know that. For me, what's pertinent here is that there's this kind of content strategy distinction that's made. In general, strategies are aimed at, on the professorial side of things, awareness, inclusiveness, acknowledgement of difference, things like that. A lot of the stuff that we've talked about in the sessions is stuff that in the humanities we already do. In terms of content, you come up against a different set of issues that, you know, the content, you're training your students into subject area competence. The course has a specific focus. That's what you're supposed to be teaching them. And then, of course, on the sort of legalistic element, there's the catalog description, as it says, major English authors. That would be what we're teaching. So what I want to talk about is, instead of strategies versus content, what kind of strategies can we have for content? What can we add legitimately, and how can we add it so that it is effective? I'm going to talk about examples from all of these courses. Broad-based courses for me just means you have a lot more flexibility in terms of what you can put in it. I'm using major English authors as my example of a traditional English lit course where you have to be doing something pertinent to that. And the examples, these are like two most recent major English authors. And, you know, on the face of it, how are you going to do anything with those kind of super English, like Uber English, you know, Virginia Woolf and Ian Forster? But there are some things that I found to do that I think help in terms of the goals of the faculty development program. The advanced composition, one really easy way to just add relevant material is in the topics that you're selecting. So these are, I literally pulled these out of the syllabus. These are the things that I chose. There were lots of other things. You could have gone in many directions. And you'll see some of this stuff gets us sort of headed towards topics that are pertinent, but they also give us ways, consumerism, psychology of success, ways of thinking about difference, cultural difference, and how things are constructed. One of the things under the how, I'd like to have students find out more. So we have readings in the book, but they need to be finding out more themselves. And if you open it up, then they have some discretion in what they bring in, so what interests them. So this is a miscellaneous assignment that I made to this class, and they had to be on topic. There were lots of ways for them to do that. Because we shared it in class, when they brought it in, that gave us a broad base as well. So everyone was exposed to what everyone else thought was interesting on this topic. I also think a focus on analysis and argument helps in terms of getting students to think about these things. This is the rationale for my syllabus. For 400, I decided to focus on argument and make the kind of obvious point that we're surrounded by argument, which for students, sometimes they don't think of it that way. How much stuff actually is argument? This is their research paper. It's argumentative. I tell them it has to be on one of the topics that we're reading about. So those topics that I chose that were, for me, pertinent in terms of Latino inclusiveness, they have to do more. And they do more. And again, we have a presentation. It's an informal presentation, more of sharing findings than a kind of presentation like I'm doing now. And again, that gives them exposure to a lot of different people's take on the subject and the research that they gather. Okay, film class, that's another one like advanced composition. It's not hard to see how you can bring some stuff in. The first time I taught the film class, I included like Water for Chocolate. We watched it. It's Spanish language, English subtitles. This is obviously the English language poster. There is a Spanish language one. And then the next two, this slide and the following one are from a miscellaneous assignment that I gave in the film class. And one of the things that I also think is important to do is not just to bring in some of the content, but to think carefully about how you do it and to invite them to make connections. Not like, this is a Spanish language film, okay? They read it as what our textbook classified as a woman's film. And we watched this Norwegian film with English subtitles as an example of documentary, so that you have all these different things moving in different directions. So I asked them to think openly about cultural context. And we're not just thinking about this as an example of England's film, for instance, but what else do we need to know? So the assignment I gave them was, what would it help you to know? You can go find some of it out and think in terms of what more you can do. Because I didn't want it to be a heavy-duty research project, but I did want them to start looking and start thinking about it. And again, when they bring us in, they share their results so that we see what people came up with and where you might go if you wanted to learn even more. I'm sorry for going through these at blazing speed. Kind of have to. The third sort of broad-based course is the graduate seminar in Women's Lit. This again is text from my syllabus that I pulled out. And down at the bottom, I put, we read Isabel Allende's House of Spirits, and I put that last so that we worked with more familiar things first. And I presented it as kind of broadening out, and then by the time we got there, we've been working with the historical fiction, so they were ready for the kind of jump into a history that was not so accessible to them. And then this is an assignment that I used that, again, works on the same premise. They go and find stuff out, and the way we set it up is each class of different student was responsible for bringing in some information that would help us understand what we were doing, and then give us some discussion questions and topics. And this worked really well. Some of the students brought in these amazing packets of information. And this, again, this is something we did throughout. We didn't just do it for Isabel Allende, we did it for all of them. Major English authors. What could be more English than Holmes and Watson, right? So what do you do with Holmes and Watson? This is from, it's not the whole thing, this is from the rationale on the syllabus. A couple things that are important to me here in terms of what we're doing with the faculty development program is it's about contextualizing. We always need to be aware of what's going on around the production of the text. And this piece is important too. We did watch different film versions. I was just showing you Basil Rathbone, who's probably best known screen portrayal, but I'm sure everybody in the room knows that there was a movie that came out in December, which has a very different take on Holmes and Watson. And we watched multiple versions and we talked about it. And then what you see is that even though it's all based on a text that came out in a fairly set period of time, the interpretation of it is constructed very differently as we move through time, so then they're aware more of how much we are constructing things. This is also from the rationale and genre, social history, narrative construction. So we're doing that kind of English class literary studies stuff, but we're also thinking beyond that and how to connect those up. One how was I like to give them essay topics that directly address some of these things, so that this is from the final exam. There were 4 topics. They could choose one. So this is an option. They're not forced to do it, but several of them took it up. And again, we're looking at something that's clearly relevant for the text. This idea of London, and we do all have a picture, whether we're buffs or Sherlock Holmes or not, we all have a picture of that kind of London. But this critic talks about what's excluded, class conflict, racism, imperialism, human women, and these are the things that we talked about as we discussed the stories, but the essay was a chance for those students who were interested to tackle some of that stuff in writing. Another strategy that I use passage commentaries both informally and on exams, midterms and final exams alike. Midterms, they're actually doing it in the class, and final, it's usually a take home. This is the basic instruction for what a passage commentary is. So here's an example